This is the CreaseCast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is episode 149 of the CreaseCast. I am your host for tonight's episode, Cody Sievertson. Back at it again, not in my white Vans, but in some white socks and a really disgusting, dirty sweater. If you're checking our YouTube channel, you can see my gross hair right now, which is pretty neat too. Lachlan, it's been a minute. Before we get into pleasantries and get in, this episode won't, just a fair warning, everyone. This episode probably won't be pleasant because we're recapping 3 miserable losses in a row. But I wanted to open the episode by commending you and Jacob for filling in on my steed and discussing the Kyle Beach situation. I really enjoyed your guys' discussion. I thought it was very productive, and it was way more important for you guys to hit on those notes than it was to talk about 3 shitty, in the grand scheme of things, meaningless games of hockey in which the Canucks looked out of sorts and looked terrible, and there's just no point. So kudos to you guys for sticking with the important stuff. Probably won't rehash it, or I won't chime in with anything because I already kind of wrote out my thoughts in my game recap. You can check that out if you're listening, ahlnucksharvest.com. I felt the same way, where it was kind of like I didn't feel right just kind of ignoring the entire beach situation and not talking about it, not talking about it or spreading the conversation, so that in the off chance, if someone was listening to or reading my game recap and they didn't know about the beach situation, they would know after that point. And so kudos to you guys. It was really great. If you haven't listened to our last episode yet, guys, maybe just check it out before you listen to this one, because we're not going to get into the Kyle Beach situation, even though the NHL, led by Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, kind of addressed the news cycle in the worst way imaginable.
Yeah, we might touch on that, that part, because that is new and that is noteworthy, especially considering, for a press conference with the commissioner of the National Hockey League discussing this situation, it couldn't have gone worse. It couldn't have left you with less hope for.
I don't think, in the history of any league in North America, I don't think any one press conference has ever gone as badly as that one did for the NHL.
I would not be surprised. If that were true. I mean, the North American leagues are notorious for having generally the worst commissioners of their sports ever. Like Roger Goodell, Rob Manfred just sucks.
He does
the
suck,
MLB thing. The only good one is Adam Silver, who seems to do a pretty decent job.
He seems to kind of get it, but he's only been on the job for a little while, hasn't he?
I think it's been, I think it's been close to a decade now.
Oh shit!
Because his big thing, one of the very first big things he did as commissioner of the NBA was deal with the Donald Sterling situation, where he banned Donald Sterling for life and forced him to sell the Clippers. That would have been close to 2011, 2012.
Yeah, 2012. Wow. That's almost 10 years ago. Jesus.
So yeah, he's been on the job a fair amount of years. I don't think he's necessarily done everything right, but generally speaking, it's pretty agreed upon that he's doing. He's doing the best job out of the 4. He's the most. You know what? Maybe not the best. Best job is the wrong way of putting it. At least the most. But it's the most well liked. The
relative
rating is higher.
Yeah, exactly. If you go by approval rating status, if we're talking Hall of Presidents kind of stuff, he's top of the list, but his approval rating is still probably 30%, because most of the time he's still probably pretty shit and pretty awful. Gary Bettman may have been pretty high on the list because he's made his owners a lot of money. He's grown the game into a lot of markets in North America, but he proved in this press conference just how horribly out of date and how out of touch he is with the growing fan base of hockey in North America and the world. It was bad. It was cringe levels of bad,
to say the least. Yeah. It was definitely a rough start to a new month of hockey. And that's before we even get any Canucks games. Before the Canucks come in to try and make it even worse
Yeah.
for us. Like it's just it's a real God, it very much feel like we've been calling it the gas leak year. This feels like something else entirely. This just feels like the God.
The
This feels
gas
like
leak decade.
yeah, maybe like
Starting to get to it a
I
bit.
feel like I've aged a decade in the last month or so. Like that feels about right. Or at least this entire year. Yeah, and yeah, you missed you missed a tough like a tougher show, but yeah, like obviously we talked about it at the start of the show that like, you're only coming in for once a week right now.
Mhm.
And but yeah, so we're gonna at least get to talk hockey today, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Let's
we're gonna try as hard as we might to have some fun today.
let's if you're listening to this, get out your shot glasses, do a shot of whiskey or vodka or whatever you're doing, because
Cold brew's
unfortunately,
great.
yeah, cold brew will help because you'll need the energy, because it's not even that the Canucks are on like a really bad losing streak right now and in the middle of their 7-game homestand, but the games have been so unwatchable.
Yep.
They have been just dreadfully boring games of hockey. I think the Wild game and Flyers game. I didn't watch the Oilers game because I knew it was coming, frankly, and I would rather watch an awful movie than an awful hockey game for the third game in a row. So I skipped out in the third period on both the Wild and Flyers games because I just knew they weren't gonna do anything.
Right.
So I believe you were at the Flyers game, was it?
Yes, I
Well,
was
lucky
at the
you.
Flyers game. I was at the look, as far as a free ticket is concerned for a game, I will watch just about any hockey I can get. Like there's no literally I'm one of those people that never even leave my team the team I'm there to see could be losing 10 to nothing and I'll still sit there until the final horn. Like I'm
Oh,
not
for
a
sure.
yeah,
If you're in
I don't leave
arena,
games.
you stick until like the final bell.
Yeah,
Like,
no leaving to beat traffic
yeah.
that doesn't work. I just you
Mhm.
go and you watch the whole thing. The nicest part, like I'll say this, the best part of the week and the Canucks week for me was getting to be back in the building, getting to see an actual live crowd, getting to react to plays, getting to like sit in the bowl, getting to walk through the concourse, albeit I will say the concourse feels more crowded than I remember. Maybe that's just because
Hmm.
we've all forgotten how
Like what
to
crowds are.
yeah, maybe that's just because we've all forgotten what crowds are like. Maybe that's because
Yeah.
there's COVID protocols that mean people have to stand a little farther away from one another. I don't know, but
Right.
it definitely felt more crowded than usual. And I wasn't the only person who thought that because I ended up talking to friend of the show, Chris Faber, Sportsnet 650's very own Chris
Yep.
Faber, as well as
Good boy.
Arash and Ryan from Pucks on Net.
Mhm.
We all met up during the first intermission, and literally Faber and I were talking about how it's like I don't remember it being this crowded. I don't remember it being like it's like Rogers Arena. If you're somebody who's never been, famously has a pretty small concourse for the arena
Yes.
and that was part of like the selling point actually with the building when they built it was that it was built on a very small plot of Vancouver land in between the two like viaducts. And that increased like the sight line and that made for better sight lines of the ice and everything. But but that came at the cost of having like a big expansive concourse. They're much smaller than I think in a lot of modern day NHL arenas. Usually they're a lot bigger. There's a lot more space. But for some reason it felt even smaller. Like it felt a lot smaller
Hmm.
in there. And it felt like you were even more cramped in between other people, like trying to get through the sea of people. But either way, like it was, good to see some friends, especially some people who I haven't seen in a really long time.
Yeah.
And getting to be again in the in arena experience, getting to watch that amazing Avengers intro live
Yeah. What a
was
waste, hey?
God, it's gonna be so it's one of those things where the right now it feels like that video is going to be so cursed down the line that you'll never see it again. And
Like
it
the reverse
sucked
retro jersey,
a
right?
little bit,
It's
yes, except that those actually sucked.
they're not that bad.
They're
In
not okay.
person, they look all
Objectively,
right.
Objectively, they're not that bad. I just hate them because I think they were completely uncreative. Like, there weren't a
Yes.
creative concept for what the reverse retros are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And hence why I own one. But and that's actually what the jersey I wore to that game, to the game against the Flyers. But yeah, that intro, and I don't know if I'm sure you have your opinions on it. I
I
talked
do.
about this already, actually, on Sportsnet 650 over the weekend before the Canucks Oilers game. Is God, it was way better than it had any right to be. That whole video is phenomenal, and I really hope that the Canucks actually pull it together, not just for the sake of winning some games, but so we can look back and be like, oh, this video rocks and doesn't remind me of the most boring team in the world.
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing with like the Heritage game, right? It's the same thing with like
Oh
some of the jerseys.
God.
Like they introduced like these new things that should have brought about like great connotations and like great memories for the fan base, but because of how much negativity was surrounding the Heritage game, how much negativity and just crappy games surrounded the reverse retro jerseys, and now it's like they introduced the Marvel intro. It should absolutely rock, and they should win, and they should like just remember like, oh, we're superheroes, we're coming to win games, and then they lose 3 straight at home in the most
Yeah.
boring, crappy games, unsuperhero like performances.
They have a
That's
way. They sure have
ugh,
a way. They sure have a way with that, huh? Like,
they
Canucks
really do.
history, the Canucks are somehow like I'd even actually say in regards to like games they should win, generally speaking, like when they're very good at the storyline games. Like, they've done it quite well. Like where, like, for example, if you want to look at a good example, like there was the 8-2 win over LA on like 50th anniversary night where they just smoked them. Quinn Hughes had the
Mhm.
first goal. They seemed of the game and his first NHL goal. Like, they seem to have a way with doing that where either they will absolutely show up and be amazing at the right time, or absolutely be terrible at the right time. Like, they do this a
Yeah,
lot.
they
And
they've managed to do that a lot this season, and we're only
yeah,
9 games in.
you know what makes me so sad is I remember us going into the year being like, they're whether or not you agree that they're good or not, the one thing we can agree on is this team is going to be much more entertaining to watch. And oh my God, they're unwatchable. They're so
Yeah.
bad. Like, it's not, again, they're not even losing in entertaining ways. They're
No.
losing. They've lost 2 games 2-1. They
Yeah.
lost another game 3-2
3 to
in an
2.
absolute slog. Like,
Yeah.
they're not winning. They're not doing anything entertaining.
No.
They are finding ways to absolutely just
Suck the life out of the
suck the
game.
life of out
Um,
of the game and the momentum. It's wow. It's
I
bad.
had pointed it out to you before we started recording that the Canucks in their last 3 games only have 3 goals at even strength. Like, that's so bad.
That's
Like,
really, really
it
bad.
also sucks too because we were trying to be like optimistic at the start of the season, being like, on paper their defense looks a lot worse, but the forward group looks significantly better with the additions of Jason Dickinson. Like, in theory, they should be much better on paper, and the forward group, so they'll be at least exciting. It'll be that same run and gun style where you have Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the mix. But hey, you've got Connor Garland and a good two-way center in Jason Dickinson to back things up in the case the run and gun style doesn't really work. But they're not doing run and gun style according to their head coach Travis Green. They're doing something else, and no one really knows. And
I
I
mean, I
think is
think
where
we
we
do know.
probably
I think we
I think
do know.
I think we
We're
do. They're trying to. I mean, we might have different opinions, but to me, it seems like the Canucks are trying to compensate for how little puck movers they have on their decor outside of Quinn Hughes. That they're playing very conservatively whenever anyone not named Quinn Hughes is on the ice, and it's
bingo.
leading to their forwards having nothing to work with because they themselves are not good puck movers. Um, this is obviously going to lead to some absolutely atrocious hockey, and we've seen it in the last few games. Eventually, I mean, you would hope like it kind of clicks for the defense that, are being sheltered and given these conservative job duties where they're just supposed to clog up lanes, try to break out a pass into the neutral zone and let the forwards take care of the rest, but they can't even do that. They haven't been doing it at all, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we talk about, like, again, looking back on what we said at the beginning of the year. We mentioned the forwards looked a lot better and the defense was bad, but we expected as much. And
Yeah.
in a weird way, the defense has been, I would argue, in a way, slightly better than anticipated. Like, they've been more or less as advertised, but like
Mhm.
individual performances, I think the individual performances, if you take them like each separately, as like, if you're like, let's say we're giving them each a report card just based on their own work rather than the work
The
then the group assignment
like
kind
the
of thing.
collective kind of thing, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, I would say, like, I was screaming at Tyler Myers after his terrible pinch in the first game, or in the game
Yeah.
against Philadelphia that led to that first goal and the first shot of the game. But overall, I think he's done okay. Like, I don't think he's been egregiously terrible.
Yeah.
I don't OEL has been better than I think I expected going into the year. Quinn Hughes, I think, is being Quinn Hughes more or less.
Mhm.
Like, Kyle Burrows has been a bit of a surprise in the early going as a relatively decent third pairing guy.
Yeah.
Outside of literally basically everyone except for with the exception of Tucker Poolman has actually played relatively okay. Like, they've done better than I think I was anticipating going in. The problem is that better than anticipated is still not good enough for what the Canucks need, and
Yeah.
it's costing them, like you said. I think you're totally right on the fact that they're playing more conservatively. They're having to make their best skaters hang back and play more defensively structured and try to do that rather than attacking the puck, and rather than attacking and trying to get goals off the rush, trying to create more in quick transition plays.
Mhm.
And that should be the style that they should play. Oh, in a way. And then you also get into the fact that for a team that really should be playing a little bit more of a speedy kind of quick game, they're not
Mhm.
very fast either.
No.
Like, they're just a hodgepodge of disaster.
I think
It's really, yeah.
I think it kind of like boils down to where like if you look at the sum of their parts, right? Like you can kind of just say like, yeah, sure, they're a fast team and they carry a lot of offensive potential. But then when you really break it down, like how the lines are structured, how they play right now, that's when you expose it and the sum of the parts doesn't actually like break down into anything really credible. Like Brock Besser is like a fine forward, but he isn't like some speed demon out there. So he's just a guy. Elias Patterson, great hands, great IQ, but when he's not firing, like he's just a guy. Especially now when he's only got 3 assists or whatever it is. Like
It's
it's
been,
not.
yeah.
He's been like a story on
He's
its
looked
own. Where
very human. He's looked very human. I don't like. I wouldn't necessarily say that I think when he's not, but like, I think
but
he has
when
been.
he's not firing, I don't think he's been any better than say like Juho Lammikko. Like he's not doing anything.
That's true. I'll give you that. Like, I'll say that for sure. I think what we're seeing from Pedersen is a guy who's frustrated, and I think we're seeing
Hmm.
his play get worse as he goes because or at least more or less get like kind of like worse as he goes because the confidence is at an all-time low for him.
Yeah.
And also, we never know. There could be a nagging wrist injury there. Like,
Yeah.
it takes some
He's
time. There's always going to be a little bit um of a not a scared isn't the right word, but like that, like, hesitancy, that's the word I'm looking for, to like maybe put your full power into it. Like, we saw that with Brock for a while, where
hmm
he just would after he really hurt his wrist, he would not he for a long time he would not put full pressure on it. Like, you could tell that he wasn't getting his full swing on the shot. He wasn't getting the full power behind it because he was being more tentative with it and not didn't because when you break something in your body, yeah, it's human nature to be like, oh, I'm scared to do this again. It's
hmm
really hard to work through that as you go to work through that. That it's a mental block sometimes, and that's every human is like that. But yeah, but at the same time, Pettersson has just not been good, even like when he's not trying to put the puck in the net, like you
Yeah.
said. And yeah, I mentioned on the last after the Flyers game that there was the penalty late in that game where he hauls down Sean Couturier while they're on the power play. And again, Petey's not an overly aggressive guy on the puck. Like, he's not an overly aggressive forechecker. So to see
Mhm.
him literally grab Couturier and haul him down mid
Yeah.
power play was a huge sign to me of like, oh, this is a guy who's completely like he's completely frustrated. He's just
Yeah.
not having it.
Yeah, he's clearly like obviously like there's the whole added thing where like he is coming off like a huge layoff, didn't really get a preseason camp going, like so he's not only like recovering from like his wrist injury, whatever it was, but he's also trying to like shake off the cobwebs of having not played. And then that in conjuncture with just straight up like not gelling with the new type of way that they're playing, like yeah, it's gonna lead to him not looking like himself. But yeah, like the penalty against the Flyers, where it's just like when did he ever really take un unnecessary penalties late into
Yeah.
a game when they needed the team to score? Like it just didn't really happen. And you can tell when they're anyone, like it's not even just him on the power play. Like JT Miller, God love his F bombs and his rage, but that took like a while for it to show up last season when it was the gas leak year. But we're 9 games in and he's been like pissed off like every single game because the team is not performing.
Yeah.
If you're the coach or if you're the management in charge, like you're probably looking at this team right now and going, "Oh no, like there's no reserves." Like that's where I come in, where I'm like, I'm looking at the farm team and I'm like, okay, they've already called up Justin Bailey, and I think he's looked really good so far in the NHL. No points yet, but he's been like serviceable as like a
Yes.
PK specialist. He almost set
Yep.
up JT Miller for that game tying goal while shorthanded. Miller whiffed, but like whatever, he tried, right?
Yeah,
But
I actually really Justin Bailey stuck out in that game against Edmonton for me
mhm,
as like the PK guy. I actually quite liked him in that role, particularly because one of the things that you and I have been talking about for quite a while with the Canucks penalty kill is they're stagnant. They're slow.
yeah,
They don't really especially watching them against the Oilers was a really good example of the night and day difference between between a penalty kill that is playing at its more or less at its best
mhm,
versus one very much playing at its worst, like just
yeah,
that is not capable of playing any real serious defense. Where every time the Canucks were trying to set something up on the power play, there was an Oilers guy. There was an Oilers penalty killer on the puck carrier instantly. Like, you'd
yeah,
pass it. There was somebody coming and you'd have to make a quick pass. Whereas
mhm,
when the Oilers were out there, the Canucks were literally just standing still. They were just in the box.
yeah,
They would just kind of rotate around. The only person who was sometimes getting in to actually try and disrupt a pass or trying to disrupt the flow was Justin
mhm,
Bailey. And it
yeah.
was making a huge difference when he did.
Yeah, it's really weird. They play like this bizarre, like passive PK, but it's like
Well, the
only
problem is
like
they don't
three
have
of
a
the.
choice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like foot speed is like a huge issue with like their defense, right? So it's like they have to play a passive like type style on their PK, and I guess maybe that translates to the power play too, where they need to be really passive, and that's why we see the same 2 set plays over and over again, and there like really isn't much else going on. But the PK, it's like they have players basically standing still, and then they have their F1 like chasing the puck carrier, like kind of like the umbrella, like the reverse umbrella kind of deal.
Yeah.
But that's good for Bailey because he plays that role really well because he's arguably one of their fastest players. And I mean, kudos to him. But then
And Tyler Mott seems to be coming back soon, which will help as
yeah, they got
well.
that. But when I say like, okay, I look at like the depth and whatever, and it's like, okay, is Tyler Mott really gonna make like would Tyler Mott have made a difference against the Wild, Flyers, or Oilers? Probably not.
Not a huge and not enough of one, no.
You
Like,
might
he might disrupt
you might
one
get
power
one
play.
goal. You might
Yeah.
get one goal and maybe you have a tie game in one of those 3 games. But like it's not like the team is waiting on another Pedersen to come back to fill the void, because it's
Nope.
like, yeah, Pedersen is playing like ass and like they're getting nothing out of him, but that doesn't excuse the other 11 forwards on the ice, and they're not waiting on 11 forwards to show up. They're
Yeah.
waiting on Pedersen to get his groove, and other than that, what are we talking about? We're talking about Phil Di Giuseppe or Nick Patan. Like,
Yeah.
those are not solutions for the team to kickstart its offense like that. They're just not.
Yeah.
And
God,
so,
no.
and now with the team sending Jack Rathbone to the AHL,
Which is baffling to me.
it makes sense. Like, I could tell that's probably like a Travis Green move, and also he has the highest cap hit, I believe, at 925,000. So I'm sure it was like, to bring Hamonic up, they needed to clear, the highest ticket they could that was waiver eligible. And because they don't have any forwards right now, because they're all injured, they couldn't send Podkolzin down. They had to send Rathbone down instead.
Mhm.
Um, but with the decor, you look at it after Rathbone's sent down, and they have exactly 3 left shot defensemen. It's OEL, Hughes, and Brad Hunt.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but Brad Hunt, like, seems like a really lovely guy. Gave some great interviews over the season, but he's clearly not a fit for the team right now,
No.
and probably not long term either. So then, I mean, we talked about it thousands of times about how Travis Green hates playing guys on their offside, but now all of their right shot defensemen in their system are pretty much up with the NHL team right now. They have
Yep. This is
Hamonic,
it.
Burrows, Shen, Myers, Pullman. That's it.
Yep.
After
That's it.
that, we're talking Madison Bowie, who's been a
Look,
guy at the
yeah.
AHL level. That
Looked
like that
okay
is
in the
not depth.
preseason, but that's not it. Yeah, that's not depth. They
Yeah, that's not
are
depth. That's not going to save you. Like, that's the whole bottom line, is like the options that the Canucks have at their disposal right now are not helping them compensate for the lack of Elias Pettersson in their scoring capabilities.
no. They are playing I said this on the radio too, was like it almost looks at times like they're waiting for him to break out when they're playing. Like his own teammates are watching and being like, "Okay, get ready. He's going to do something great." Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what it feels like sometimes. And they're maybe not putting their full foot on the gas because they keep waiting for him to step up and do what he's best at. Um and it's just not there. And yeah, like I honestly am worried that at this point, that let's say Pedersen gets going, because again, I think he will, right? Like I don't think
Mhm.
anyone is under the debate that this is a
Yeah, no one's
season
like,
long malaise for him. This is not going to be
yeah.
a yeah, he
You'd have to
will
be very
figure it out.
foolish to think that he's going to be like garbage the
That
entire
this is
82
that
game
this is
season.
just him now. No, yeah, he's
It could
clearly
happen.
better than this. It could, but
It
it's he
could, but you and I are like positive enough to be like,
no.
please no,
Yeah, no.
we need the gas leak year to end at some point. The gas leak season, the gas leak decade. We need things to be hopeful for, and so we have to believe that the slump is going to end at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, if he gets going, I don't really know how much that's going to change everything else because a lot of players aren't really going.
Yeah,
Like, there are times where they look okay, like for sure. Like, there have definitely been a lot of moments, for example, where I've thought, where Connor Garland has obviously looked really, really good. I
hmm
think his biggest mistake was shaving the mustache mid streak. That was
that
clearly a
was
bad choice.
fucking dumb. Like, honestly, you're a
Oh,
pro athlete and you are on a hot streak to start your season, and you shave,
that's a rookie mistake. That's a very rookie mistake. You
and
gotta
he
keep
hasn't looked good since. I think he hasn't had a point since he shaved.
I don't believe so, no. 'Cause,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
that's a fully okay. Here, I'm looking at the top scores right now.
Well, 'cause the only 2 games that he has not had a
Oof.
beard for were I believe were the Flyers and Oilers games, which he definitely didn't get a point in either of those.
Okay, we're gonna do some quick stats here because I'm assuming you don't have it open. You're not looking, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. How many points does Elias Pettersson have right now?
I believe the answer is 3, and it's just assists.
Okay. He's got 1 goal and 3 assists.
Okay. Okay.
But you know where he is in the scoring on the team? He's 5th.
Yep.
He's 5th highest on the team.
5th highest with 4
Brock
points.
Besser has 3 points. Chiasson has the exact same. Pearson has the exact same. Hoglander, Myers, all 3 points each in 9 games. Like, that is, you're
Abysmal.
just not, that's terrible. That's awful. That's so bad. They have 5 other guys on their team that have 0 points, one of them being Jack Rathbone, who was just sent down. That's fine. He's a kid. He'll rack up a ton of
we're
power
not
play
worried
points.
about Jack Rathbone right
You're
now.
not stressing. It'll, if anything, him getting demoted right now will lower his next contract if the Canucks deem he's worthy of an extension, which in my opinion he should be, because I think he's really good. Just needs time to grow.
Yeah, he'll be back later this year. I would say. Like, there have been some really damning stats that have come out about the Canucks, like with the Canucks in the last few days. Like Jay Fresh had the tweet earlier where it's like I don't know if you've seen this, but there was a tweet basically that was like, where are they, like, where's the team right now, like in terms of like your top to bottom, like the expected goals for at 5-on-5 percentage at 5-on-5. The Canucks are currently dead last behind even Chicago. They're behind everybody. They're in dead last for expected goals for percentage. They are playing that badly that they are not getting that much offense going. Kevin Woodley posted some statistics today, or like a percentage, like I forget exactly what this system he's using is, but it like basically talks about like chances and like the percentage of the amount of percentage that were high percentage shots or whatever compared to mid and low, essentially. And Brendan Batchelor tweeted basically the cliff notes of it, which is that 19 of the Canucks' 25 chances against the Oilers were deemed low percentage shots, and only 1 was high percentage, and that most likely was the one that Besser scored with 5 seconds to go in garbage time.
Yay.
Like, yay is right. Like, they look atrocious, and it is like, my biggest concern is the fact that I don't know where this is coming, how they get out of this. Like, in a way I do. Like, in the sense of I do, it's, the offense needs to play up to their actual capabilities. They need to, and the defense just needs to hold the fort, and they need to just let the forwards go, kind of thing. Right? Like, I kind of know, but at the same time, there doesn't really seem to be like this magic recipe of something they're clearly, like, you can't pinpoint it down to like a particular part of their game plan where it's like, oh, if they fix this, they're golden, kind of thing, right? Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing to pinpoint down on. This is what the problem is, which is worse because it means that there's kind of not really there's not a real answer here. It's very much you just gotta kind of pray and hope they figure it out. I will say that it, like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that isn't really like a good, like, if you're the GM or the coach, like, and you've tried everything, you've tried all your line combos, and at the end of the day, your best bet for your next game is you just hope everyone figures it out. That's not a good feeling.
No. Which kind of brings us to the other conversation that we had this, I think, 2 weeks ago now. But we kind of have to bring it up again, is the Travis Green thing. Because a lot of people are saying it's time to get rid of him. Like, again, like that, like, it's gotten louder now. And again, I don't think our opinions have changed. And I think Daniel Wagner had a really great tweet about it the other day in response to somebody else. There was this, if I can go back and find it quick enough, here it is. Somebody basically tweeted about how, like, because again, people have been tweeting about it, like, what the team could, like, the Travis Green is not doing a good enough coaching job, which, to be fair, I think I would agree on that. Like, I would say that some of the choices he's made in terms of like the way he's deploying the players right now hasn't been the best. Like, I would definitely look at a couple of them and be like, yeah, I don't like fully agree. I don't agree if that's maybe that's maybe the best call here.
Right.
But Daniel Wagner tweeted originally, quote, like, would a different coach be able to get more for this team? Maybe. But I think the Canucks' problems go far beyond coaching. somebody replied basically going, this is his 5th season behind the bench. How many players have passed through this roster? Nothing has changed. And et cetera, going into like the team being unwatchable. True. Oh, true
Very
thing.
true.
To which point Daniel responded, this is Jim Benning's 8th season in the front office. How many players has he acquired for his roster and nothing has changed? And that's the kicker. Like at the end of the day, I think we're back again. This is the problem, right? We're basically back where we were last season when we were like, this team's going nowhere because regardless of who's coaching, you're screwed. Like you're not going to win because of the general manager doesn't know how to put a roster together. Like he's throwing a bunch of pieces together hoping it works, and like the forwards look okay. Like overall there does seem to be a semblance of a matching fits here and there. But then you look at the defense. Outside of Quinn Hughes, and maybe Oliver Ekman-Larsson, there's no one else there. In 8 years, you don't have 6 defensemen that can play regular NHL minutes, and you're having to play Quinn Hughes close to 30 minutes every single night, which you 100% can't do for the entire season, let alone for the rest of his career. So what the fuck are you going to do? Like
they already tried it earlier this season. It didn't work.
They already tried it earlier this season, and they almost got him hurt. Like they got him hurt he had to leave a game because he was injured. I honestly wouldn't be totally surprised if he was playing injured right now. Like
yeah, he might be.
I haven't seen any particular like plays where I'm like, oh, he's hurt sort of thing. But like when he comes back that quickly, you have questions. The problem is that I'm just looking at them like I'm looking at this team and I'm just like, it's been 8 years with the same guy. I think, again, I don't think Jim Benning in any way, shape, or form has earned the chance to start over with a new coach, because that's what happens, right? When you hire a new coach, the clock restarts on the GM, basically. It's basically like, okay, now your timer's going down, here you go kind of thing, right? And that was what Travis Green was supposed to be the first time, because when he fired Willie Desjardins, right? That was supposed to be the whole thing. And now like there is no coach coming in to save the Canucks here. Like there is no coach available that is going to magically come in. Frankly, there's no coach even unavailable right now that's coming in to magically turn this team into a playoff contender. Like
no, John Cooper isn't like signing to the Canucks and suddenly like turning them into a Stanley Cup contender. Like you're just not. Like you have to build like a team that actually works. And like we said this even like last year when we were talking about like what are they going to do for the defense in the offseason. We're like, because the Rathbone Myers pairing doesn't work, and Myers needs like a very specific kind of shut down stay at home defender, but those guys don't come cheap. And case in point, they signed Ekman-Larsson, and he was not cheap. Cost him a lot. And they haven't even played him with them because they can't really. They need to play OEL with Poolman as their main shutdown pair because they know Myers can't defend. And OEL's too slow to bail out Myers, as you pointed out in the one sequence you got to watch where Myers made a risky pinch and then OEL made like a bit of a questionable read, but relative to the original pinch, it wasn't as bad. So I get why people would be frustrated with Green because the team isn't playing fun hockey. Like,
no,
but I think people need to, like, those same people are also like, well, Brad Shaw is the reason why they're looking a bit better defensively, which maybe analytically, like they're suppressing like chances or something like that, or I don't even know. I haven't looked into the numbers yet.
I think overall they're not like the defense. Again, the defense has done a little bit, like they're clearing a very low bar. But overall, they're looking definitely like they're playing slightly above, they're punching slightly above their weight, with the exception again of Tucker Poolman, who, oh my God, he's been really, really bad. His chances for, like, I think every other defenseman, I think more or less, they're at least up until recently, their chances for their like scoring chances for, like when they're on the ice, were higher than their chances against, kind of thing. But except for Tucker Poolman, who's chances for was in the single digits, while he was like in the 20s, I
Yeah,
think,
I saw
in
that.
chances
His
against.
expected goals for is like 22%, which is like
He's
unfathomably bad considering he spends most of his time either with OEL or Quinn Hughes. Like that is
yeah,
shocking.
straight up abysmal.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just I'm just watching, like, I'm watching them, and then they like, they're doing okay. But then again, you go to, like, there was, like, I think Justin Morissette was talking about on Twitter, and people are getting a little upset at him because, again, he was pointing out the fact that the defense isn't good. And people were like saying, "Well, what about Myers and OEL have done okay? Like, don't, like, you're being too critical of the
Mhm.
defenseman." And it's like, the point isn't that Myers and OEL have been bad, because, again, they haven't. Okay, they've
Yeah.
actually done okay. They've done okay. The problem is that because of the cap space the Canucks are giving to them, are using exclusively on them, being okay isn't good enough. They have
Mhm.
to be, for the amount that they're making, they should both be, like,
Above
they should bo
average.
they should not just above average, they should be some of the best defensemen in the NHL. Like, they
Yeah.
should, for the dollar amount, for the percentage of cap space that they are taking up on a daily basis, they should be in the same conversation as guys like Cale Makar, like Adam Fox, like Victor Hedman. They should be in that conversation for what they're being, for the amount that they're taking up. And they're doing, again, we know that that's not their capabilities. We know they can't do that. They're doing better than the capabilities we had expected of them.
Mhm.
But because the Canucks looked at them and valued taking up that much space on their roster, on their cap percentage, to just for those guys, because they can't, for some reason, they just can't figure out how to evaluate proper defensive talent at the pro level for the life of them. They're
No.
screwed. They're stuck. What are you going to
Yeah.
do? Like, I
The
think Transfer had a whole thing about how they are strapped to this team with dynamite. Like this
yeah.
whole team, like, they are very much the fuse is set. This is it. This is your team. No one's coming in to rescue you.
Yeah.
And you better hope that they figure it out.
Yeah, like that's the thing is a lot of the times when I post my game recaps, people ask me how Jet Woo's doing, and I'm like, you guys, like he's not the answer. I'm sorry, but he's looked like below average at the AHL level this year. Like he's got some wheels here and there, but nothing happens with him on the ice. Offensively and defensively, I think he gets burned just as much as Oli Ulevi used to. Like it's not great, and that's your only right side prospect outside of Victor Persson, who's playing for the Kamloops Blazers right now, which is fine, but
Yep.
he's not ready for like 3 years or 4 years at this point. Jet Wu still needs another like 2 seasons before you're even thinking about calling him up as depth. Like he's just not there. So what they've got right now is pretty much it, barring trading away whatever picks they have left to try and salvage this season and get it back on track. But like you said, this team has never identified a defenseman that has been good. Actually, that's not true. They identified one, Troy Stetcher, and the coach hated him, so they
Yeah.
got rid of him. And Troy Stetcher would probably be better than every single person on their right side right now.
Yeah, Stetcher would easily slot in, I would say, probably ahead of
Hammond. I think
ahead of Hamonic. He'd
he'd
be
be
on
playing with
Hughes.
OEL right now.
He might play with Hughes, frankly. Like, I don't think you want,
No, they're
yeah,
too
like,
small. They would never put two small
you're
guys
right
together.
there. You're right. The
They're
two
sizists.
shorter
The two
defensemen they would
shortest
not want.
kids. Yeah.
They would go with, yeah, Stetcher would probably, I think, and especially right now, I think right now the plan is that OEL is going to move over to his wrong side to play with
Mm,
Quinn Hughes, which is what I've heard, which is, I would honestly say, is probably the safest choice there. Like, I think that actually makes a little bit of sense because I think Hunt is naturally a lefty,
mhm.
and so is, I want to say, Kyle Burrows, I think, is too,
No,
or
he's a
somebody
righty. They have 6 righties on their in their depth right now and 3 lefties. That's it.
interesting, because
So
I
what
saw
I saw
somebody moving to the
online,
right.
yeah. So what you saw was Hamonic actually on the left side optioning with Hunt or something like that, with Shen on the right.
Right.
It's
Okay.
very bizarre. Like I saw the lines, and I guess it's just them trying to avoid playing Brad Hunt. So it would be Hamonic or Burrows on the left, optioning to play with like Luke Shen or something. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, the answer is not like good. It's like the
No.
solution is not the answer. And like the bar was set so low last year because their defense was just completely garbage that being below average for Tyler Myers is seen as an upgrade, but it's still not good enough. And he's at that age where it's like him being below average and not good enough is where he's just going to be. And
No.
that's not really great when you have 2 more years after this season at a $6 million cap hit.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, like you just think a lot of the solutions come down to, oh, this team needs to identify like a better puck moving right shot defenseman or left shot defenseman to just like help them out on the back end. And then you're like, oh wait, who's in charge of searching for the defenseman? Oh
Yeah.
right, it's a management team that's identified or has 1-star defenseman for 8 years, and the guy fell in their lap.
Yep.
Like it was a complete layup.
They
They couldn't
literally
have screwed up
got
that
him
pick.
because the Coyotes drafted who? Was it Barrett? Was it Barrett
Barrett
Hayton they
Hayton
drafted?
and the Canadians went for just Barry
Kotkaniemi. Well, they literally lucked into having Quinn Hughes fall into their lap at that spot. And again, like we mention all the time with the first rounder guys, especially at that high, even if Quinn Hughes wasn't available, you should be landing on those picks every single time. That should be, again, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
When you can't identify anybody else in the draft to come and pick up the slack, you're in trouble. Like the best guys the Canucks have had over recent years were, besides Quinn Hughes, were Alex Edler, who is obviously already here, and Chris Tanev, who is obviously already here. Like,
and
yeah,
they banked on them.
They banked on and they used them for years to their benefit, but then did not find anybody to replace them. Well, that's not entirely true in Edler's case. OEL is clearly
that's who they identified as the Edler incumbent.
He's Swedish.
Right?
He's 23. He's he's number 23. He's very much just Edler too. Albeit a little younger and probably a little better at this point than Alex Edler. For now. Whereas for Chris Tanev, again, they had so many years to know that Chris Tanev was eventually going to move on, and they did not find a replacement for him. Like, again, and I say this all the time, I get that Chris Tanev's in particular, his style of defense doesn't grow on trees, and they're very hard to get, which is why it's all the more important for you to go out early and start looking for it quickly. Start looking for it sooner rather than later, even if he's still there, just so that when that day does eventually come, you're not completely caught off guard with no succession plan in place. Because right now they have a lot of guys who are, I guess I don't really know what players to kind of compare them to of the past. I guess like Jason Garrison maybe would be that maybe is your comparable there. Lucas Spiza. We got a lot of Lucas Spizas now. We went from having one to having guys
to
having
6 or 7 of them.
Deep dish Pullman whenever you want. It's been a rough go. And yeah, I just look at this team and I'm just like, I don't see where the fix is. Like Pettersson might come in and do it better. Like he will eventually. He can and he will. But even when that day comes, I'm worried about a couple things. Like I'm just worried about the group being able to hold down the fort. I look at the goaltending and I'm just like, God, they have to literally hold them in games every single time. Like that Oilers game would have been 6-0 had it not been for Thatcher Demko shutting them down. He did a great job. Like I guess if we want to,
I was just going to ask you, do we need to hand out the Infinity Gauntlet? Because for the last 3 games, there's only one, maybe arguably 2 answers, and it's Demko, and then if you're being generous, Justin Bailey or JT Miller, because of whatever they're doing on the PK. It looks pretty good, and JT Miller is still at a point per game pace, so he's earning his paycheck, but you got to give it to Demko, right?
I would say
you gotta.
Yeah, I would say I would even throw honestly, like this might be a hot take. I would say like almost even like a joint handover of like Halak and Demko as a unit. Like
Yeah.
because again, Halak did his job. Like
Hmm.
the eye test will tell you, oh, he let in the first goal, which put them in a bit of a hole, and then he had another goal go in that first period that kind of killed a little bit of momentum there. But
Sure.
at the end of the game, he finished with, I think, a 920. Like, he finished with
Yeah.
a high save percentage in that game because he faced close to 30. He faced over 30 shots, or at least close enough to it.
Right.
That he was literally and got, again, no run support from his forwards. Two other players that I'll throw in kind of as honorable mentions in
Hmm.
here. Like, these aren't Infinity Gauntlet guys, but I would like to point them out as guys who I think actually have done okay, like as far as the forwards go.
Okay.
Um, I have liked Brock Besser. I think Brock Besser, particularly in the Flyers game and in the Oilers game, was looking very dangerous, and he was making like a lot like last year. It really looked like he was able to kind of put the team on his back at points and do what he could. Like he's not a superstar, so he can't necessarily like take over a game whenever he wants to. Like he's not at that
Right.
particular level, but there was a very clear case of when the offense was clicking, it was probably because Brock Besser was on the ice. And he
Right.
was getting his opportunities. He was deking defensemen. He was getting in close chances. I think he probably has the majority of their. We mentioned already that he probably had the one high danger chance in the Oilers game.
Yeah.
I think if
Yeah.
you go back and look at the Wild and the Flyers
Probably
games, I
all him.
wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those were him too.
Yeah.
And then the other guy I do want to throw in here as well is Vasily Podkolzin. I actually quite liked his game, like watching him up close against the Flyers. One of the things that really stuck out for me from him was that he's a very good forechecker. He's really good on getting pucks and winning puck battles along the boards. And that's something the Canucks don't have a lot of,
Hmm.
particularly with the young guns.
Yeah.
And there was one particular play that I remember that I think one of the closest the chances the Canucks got to maybe tying that game against Philly, where Flyers defenseman, I think it might have even been like Ivan Provorov, like one of their better defensemen, is trying to carry the puck out along the left side boards. He's trying to skate it out. He's in the corner, but Colson catches up to him, completely bumps him, like gets a nice big clean body check into him, completely knocks him off the puck. Like I think even maybe there was like a stick flip in there. Like he
Hmm.
got the stick underneath, he took and he completely stole the puck and quickly and got a nice quick pass out in front. I think it might have been Connor Garland who would have been like the recipient. Might have also been Juho Lammikko. I think it might have been him too. Like I don't remember exactly who it was in front of the net. They just
Hmm.
couldn't get there. They just couldn't get to the front of the net in time for the quick pass. But it was a
Okay.
really nice play where I looked at it and I was like, that's the kind of stuff that I feel actually gives me a lot of confidence in Podkolzin and what he could potentially become.
Hmm.
It looks like he's starting to get more benefit of the doubt from the coaches, and
Yeah.
starting to get a little bit more ice
He
time.
went from 10 minutes to 11 minutes.
He went from 10 minutes to 11 minutes. And he got more shifts late in games where they're trailing. Because remember,
Yeah.
he got stapled to the bench against Minnesota in the last
Which
I think
was
10 minutes, which was
which
weird.
was
A
so dumb because
weird.
he played like Lamico at like for shifts like at the end of that game too, and it was like,
Yeah.
what are we
And
doing here?
And you know what? To be fair, Lamico, I think actually I quite like. Like I actually quite like what Lamico does. Like he's actually a pretty good he's good for the role that they have him playing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Podkolzin, I think started to get in the last couple of games. I started noticing he was getting shifts in the final 2 minutes. Like he wasn't out there for the last minute of play at all, but
Mhm.
he was getting opportunities late,
Yeah.
and which was something he was not getting early on. And I
No.
honestly think that he's a very good fit, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from him as he grows into his NHL role. I think he's
Yeah.
actually looking better as he goes along.
Yeah, him and Klimovich were like obviously like the two most interesting things to take or players to take away from the opening camp. Just like one very clearly had all the minutia down of like the defensive game, like the battling, the wall work. Like he clearly understands that and what his job needs to be. He just might not have like the foot speed or what have you to maybe execute properly in his first year in the NHL. And Klimovich is like the opposite, where he doesn't have the wall work, he doesn't have the defensive details down, but like offensively, like you can tell, like he knows what to do with the puck. He knows how to break into the zone. He knows how to create dangerous chances. It's just like the other side of the game. He just hasn't figured out yet. So it's like if you're a Canucks fan, it's like, okay, well, you got two guys on the opposite sides of the spectrum that might actually be something for this team. Puckholzen probably isn't going to be like a 20-point player in his first year this year,
No.
but he's shown enough where you're kind of like, I can see him picking up the game and just through repetition and playing more and being an effective two-way forward at this league. He might not like blow the doors off, but it'll be good enough.
Yeah, you can see it's almost like you can see like the block of marble is you can see them chiseling away into the
Yes.
statue and seeing the statue take shape. Like that's kind of a good way of looking at it. It's going to take time for that
Hmm.
statue to be done and polished and finished.
Yeah.
But but you're seeing the work. You're
Yeah.
seeing the work in progress and you like what you're seeing.
You also need to, at this juncture, be like to the fans that assumed that Canucks were going to have a forward group that was better than 2011 because Vasily
Oh,
Podkolzin
that's
was going
right.
to join the team.
God, I forgot
And
about that.
I really hope those people just shake their heads at night knowing they tweeted something like that, because how could you assume some kid from the KHL is just going to like blow the doors off? Like that's just not how the league works. Like
Alex Chason is not Maxim Lapierre, and Jason Dickinson is not Raffi Torres. Like, yeah, I'm sorry.
he played like Raffi Torres in the beginning of the season when he was playing like with a huge chip and taking penalties over and over again.
Yeah,
That was very
he was playing.
Torres like.
He was very aggressive, and I don't know if we have anyone on the team right now who can match that Chris Higgins six pack right now. At least not in the third line, fourth line guys.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
Yeah. They got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, like they're playing the Rangers tomorrow. Like their schedule
Hmm.
doesn't get that much easier. Like the Predators
No,
haven't been necessarily
at the
like
very least, they're at home, right?
yeah, literally I mean, you can look at that either as a good or a bad thing because man, I remember because the Boo Birds came out in the
They
second
did.
game. The Boo Birds totally came out and they probably would have in the game against Edmonton had Besser not scored with 5 seconds to go. Like
Yeah.
they probably would have come out there as well. I remember hearing the booing and being like, "Oh my god." Like again, as much as you and I have talked about the fact that they haven't been good enough over like that road trip to start the year. For me to
Hmm.
hear like booing on game 2 at home, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's not good. That's got to hurt. That's got to sting if your ownership who is trying to sell tickets right now,
He
like
was
that's
trying to
got to be
live tweet the game too, trying to get the fans involved, being
uh,
like, I'm gonna live tweet this one, and then they get
oh
scored on in the first like 15 seconds or 10 seconds, which was genuinely one of the funniest things I think I've ever
someone
seen.
should buy someone should buy Demko dinner. Oh,
Yeah, like, oh,
that was such that oh my god. Like I'll give the Aquilinis credit. I'll give Francesco credit. He has his tweet game is very much that of like a gamer. Like he's got a bit of a gamer like thing where he's like, someone should buy Demko dinner. Someone knows Demko dinner, knowing full well that people are going to point out that he is not only the owner of the team, the rich billionaire
the
owner of the team, but he
rich
also
mega millionaire. Yeah.
yeah, but part of his business portfolio includes multiple
Yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah.
And it's like, gee, I wonder who's on the hook for that. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder who should be on the hook for that. Like, I was saying yesterday, like during the Oilers game, that I was like, I think at this point, you kind of just owe him a restaurant at this point. Like Demko's teammates need to like pull their money and just buy him a restaurant if he wants it. Whatever cuisine he wants, just go for it because he's doing so much of the work.
He's doing some
And
serious heavy lifting.
yeah, the Rangers are coming in. I think I think I was watching their game against Seattle yesterday, and it was like they've won 5 in a row, and I was like,
Throwing
oh no. Which again, we talked about the Canucks being really good at stories and stuff. On one hand, either means the Rangers are going to come in and absolutely smack them, or the Canucks are going to somehow walk away with a very convincing victory against a red hot team because of course they would.
There's so much discourse right now around Igor Shesterkin and just like how amazing he's playing that it would either be very Canucks of them to lose their 4th straight at home and get like embarrassed like 5-0, or inversely, because it's Igor Shesterkin and there's finally media attention on him, they light him up for like 9 goals, and that's just Canuck luck, baby. That's how it would work.
I gotta look at the Rangers schedule in particular, because part of me honestly was like looking at it like, oh, they're gonna start Georgiev, aren't they? Like they're probably not starting number 1 guy against the Canucks right now, because why would you?
Yeah.
Especially because I don't know what their road trip consists of, like if they've already played Calgary. I believe they've already
They play Edmonton next, I believe.
They play Edmonton next, and I don't think it's a back-to-back for them, at least, or I'm looking it up right now. But they are on like a road trip right now. They're on the Western Swing. They don't. Oh yeah, so they don't play again until Friday. So you know what? Yeah, they probably do play.
They probably do.
Shesterkin again. They probably do go back to Igor Shesterkin if he's the red hot hand like he is right now. Yeah, you go back to him again because he looked very, very good in the game against Seattle. They were getting opportunities and he just was shutting the door. Yeah, most likely Georgiev will start on one of the game, probably the Saturday game against Calgary, because they play Edmonton Friday. So that's the back-to-back for them there. So yeah, you're gonna see Shesterkin, you're gonna see Demko again. This is going to be a very cool game, like in the sense of like, you're going to get 2 teams that are in a way in similar spots, like in terms of like development wise, because I mean, the Rangers have Lafreniere, they've got Capo Caco, they've got a relatively young group. That's a very inexperienced group.
Yeah.
But they are also but the difference being, of course, that the Rangers are playing like a team that has bigger playoff aspirations coming pretty quick down the runway here.
Yeah.
And the Canucks are very clearly not. Like the Canucks are very clearly fighting for their lives right now in the Pacific Division.
Day by day.
They're dead last, I believe, right now. I believe they're tied for dead last in the Pacific right now, which is not good.
They're in a 3-way tie for points with LA and San Jose, I want to say, or Arizona.
No, San Jose. Good. Yeah, not Arizona. I believe it's Seattle, because Seattle, the expansion team. It's the
they lose the tiebreaker because they have the lowest goals for with only 22 in 9 games, which is an ugly number.
Yeah, it's Seattle. It's Seattle and Los Angeles. They all have identical records. They all have an identical 3-5-1 record, which is actually kind of impressive that they all have the exact same one. And yeah, they have 1 less regulation win than LA and Seattle. So that's a bit of an oops. They have a smaller goals against average than goal differential, than some teams ahead of them.
Yeah, but little victories.
We are in fully.
It's little victory season, dude.
Fully in moral victory season already.
After not even 10 games,
9 games,
not even 2 handfuls.
9. God, I don't have high hopes right now for this team. I would love to see them. I think they can beat Anaheim, which fast forward to when they lose to Anaheim. Exactly. I think they can beat a couple of the teams they got in front of them here. And we're going to talk before then, obviously. Like, we're going to talk before they play Anaheim, Dallas, I think Nashville, or we might be recording, or you and I might not be recording, but I'll certainly be recording, like, I think day of they play Nashville. But I don't see why, like, again, if they walk out of this with no wins, like if they finish this, what is, I believe,
if they go like
7 games, they go winless in 7 games, I have no idea what they're going to be doing.
Okay, well, let's do a prediction right now before we go into like some other random NHL news, because this conversation is feeling a bit like we're hammering the same points we've hammered a lot during our
Yeah.
CreaseCast tenure together.
Yeah.
Do we think how many? So they have 4 games left of this homestand.
Yeah.
How many are they winning?
I'm going to say looking at the teams coming into the building, I could realistically see them winning 2. Winning 2. The 2 that I'm looking at most likely being Dallas, who has not looked very good or they've had some moments, but they haven't been that great to start the year, I don't think, for them. Maybe I'm bullcrapping. How are they actually? No, they're 6th. Okay, they have the exact same points as the Canucks do, albeit they are in 6th in their division.
Right.
But yeah, I could see them beating Dallas. Although again, remember Braden Holtby's probably coming back for that game, so Braden Holtby's
Yeah,
shutout would not
he's on the
be.
top goaltenders list. He's rejuvenated his career again. Like
Yeah. Oh, that's awkward. Yeah.
now that you reminded me of Holtby, what's going to happen is he's going to come home to
Oh no.
Vancouver. Turtles are going to be watching from home, and he's going to get a shutout, guaranteed.
He's gonna get a donut. Yeah, he might. He really might. But yeah, I think realistically they could beat Dallas, and then I think they can beat Anaheim. Like Anaheim is not a.
In
They're not.
theory,
Like in theory, the Canucks. In theory, the Canucks should be a better team than Anaheim. I
right?
don't think, and by just about any metric, they should be better than Anaheim. Like I'm looking at the Ducks. Like you look at the Ducks roster, you look at where they are in their franchise trajectory right now. Like they're clearly not a
They're
playoff
just
team
having
right now.
fun.
They're
Well,
just
they
having
are
fun.
technically right now.
Well, yes, but I mean, their first line is a very old Ryan Getzlaff with Troy Terry and Benoit Olivier Groux, who I don't even know who that
He's a
is.
player.
He's a player. They got really old Adam Henrique. They've got, I believe, they've got pieces there, but they're still very much in full rebuild. Like right now, they're in mid rebuild.
They've scored
The
9
Canucks.
more goals than the Canucks in 1 more game played.
Oh, great! Just terrific. I think in theory they should be able to beat both of those teams. I could maybe see them beating Nashville. Nashville also hasn't been all that great to start their year. But I think that one's going to be a little bit tougher. What would you say here?
I think they don't win a single one.
You
I think
think okay?
I think they get blanked against New York. I think they
I think
blow it against Nashville. I think Holtby gets the shutout. Anaheim lights them up, and then they win against Colorado like 7-2.
do they play Colorado at the end of this
They
trip?
so after their homestand is done, they go on the road and they start by playing against Colorado, and so I feel like morale will be so low, so rock bottom that it only makes sense that they would then defeat Colorado.
And that Colorado would just seemingly take the night off and then get completely dominated
Yeah,
because of it.
exactly.
Colorado, by the way, who I think also has been kind of like struggling a little bit for what they're capable of.
Yeah.
I think you also, to be fair though, I think if you're going to say that they're going to lose every game and in theory lose 7 straight games at home, I think you
Mhm.
have to answer the question, what happens? Because come on,
I
like there's
think
no way status quo is kept after that, right? There's no way.
I think I think because they just signed Green to an extension, and because of all the press that Aquilini has done and Jim has done as well, they're so committed to the plan. This plan that they do have, and I'm using asterisk if you're watching our YouTube, sorry, quotation marks if you're watching our YouTube channel, but they're so committed to their plan that they have internally that to fire Travis or Jim in Aquilini's eyes would kill trust in the brand and would like plummet ticket sales.
Would it not kill more trust in the brand if they just went the status quo though? Because if you lose 7 in a
No,
row and say no, everything's fine, I don't, and especially because again, I think Vancouver for the most part is a pretty and is not like a stupid consumer base when it comes to like the franchise. I think if anything, you're more, especially fans are going to be in the building booing every single night of that road trip. If you get to 0-7, I would have to imagine that you're more likely to doom your consumer base by not doing something, right?
I think because of Aquilini and how cheap he is, he wouldn't want to pay for a new coach, and firing Green would be just like a empty gesture if you're just going to replace him with a guy that's already on the bench. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
Travis Green is not who I'm talking about here. I'm talking about Mr. 8 years with no defense.
I don't think he gets fired though. I really don't, because at the end of the day, they've spent their entire offseason hyping up Jim's plan and how much patience the fan base needs for it to all come together. If we're talking less than 15 games into the season, you're selling on the hope and promise you promised your fan base and your season ticket holders like not even 3 months ago, you're going to kill everything that you built over the summer to those fans that are still buying or think you have some shred of credibility remaining. If they fire them, and that's basically a testament being like, we don't know what we're doing. And if you're a season ticket holder and you're now 2 seasons in a row of unwatchable hockey, are you really going to pay for tickets again? I don't think so. And I'm sure Aquilini is looking at the bottom dollar more than he is, you know, credible sense,
Yeah,
because it hasn't been there for like 8 years. It
I
just hasn't.
yeah, I just don't see how anyone could gain consumer trust out of watching the same thing, like watching this like a
Yeah.
Groundhog's Day situation essentially, where they're
Well, we
like,
say that, right? Like that's me and you thinking like,
right,
okay, the fan base is going to be tired with it. But you know who's also been watching the same thing over and over is the guy that owns the company, the guy that
owns
owns
the
the
team
team and has been
and
watching
thinks
it for 8
things are
years
fine.
and is pretending that the status quo is what is needed. The guy
Right.
that tweeted out the team needs to buy Thatcher Demko dinner, and it like last night was frustrating, and God, like, playing golly gee, I can't believe we lost. Like, the guy is either clueless or he is putting on the veneer that everything is okay and this is just trusting the process.
Yeah,
And
it's
for people like
I
you and I, it's tough to trust the process when it has been so long of there
no.
being no real process.
Yeah, bingo. I think with Owen, I will say that I personally think if 0-7 happens, that I think the guy who's going is not the coach. I think it's the guy who
It's
built the
Bradshaw.
thing. It's it's Bradshaw. Yeah.
Bradshaw is the problem.
We've gotten rid of Ian Clark. Goodbye. Like it's his that would be something they do. No. In all seriousness, I think in all seriousness, like yeah, if they got to 0-7 particular, like I think even one game, like if they win one game of this road trip, like safety is guaranteed. But like if they go 0-7 and you start to notice less and less people at the games, like, especially in,
Yeah.
like, that last one, like, if there is a very clear dip in the amount of people attending, and
Yeah.
then the boo birds come out
I
as they're losing, then, oh, watch out. Then watch
I
out if you're the upper management.
I also think if you're like you and I can look at like what they have in the prospect cupboard, we can look at the depth chart, the picks that they have available to them. If you fire Green or if you fire Jim like this early in the season, you have some plan in theory that involves getting your team to be good again. But with looking at the assets they have, you're looking at another rebuild. You're looking at
Yep.
getting rid of Hoglander. You're looking at getting rid of Horvat
Hog
or Miller to try and kickstart rebuild part 2 of 8.
Can you with what? Because like with the cap space that there, honestly, this is a conversation. I feel like if we go into this any more, like we'll just end up in a completely different conversation for like an
Yeah, we
hour. So
will.
I'll leave it with you on that one as is. Um, but yeah, I'll say this, like, I would say personally, if their answer to going 0-7 or like going somewhere along those lines was their answer was we fired the head coach.
Yeah.
Um,
It just
I would
clearly like
even though clearly that's not the real issue, is I would
yeah.
personally lose a lot, like lose whatever consumer trust I had left.
Yeah.
Like because it'd be like, well, you're not going to learn. You're not learning it. You haven't learned anything. You haven't learned a problem. This is never going to change. You're never going to win anything. Goodbye. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, Claude Julien isn't doing anything with this decor, and a firing of the coach or coaches or whatever is just them showing they have no sense
It's
of
shuffling deck chairs on a Titanic, like on the Titanic. It's not going
Exactly.
anywhere. You're not fixing a damn thing.
All
right.
Speaking of deck chairs on the Titanic, why don't we get into some of the NHL news that came out today? As we kind of alluded to earlier, Gary Bettman, Bill Daley held like a big giant press conference to address what had been learned during the Kyle Beach investigation that was publicized last week, and it went quite awful. Just a few highlights, because we don't want to we say this every episode, but we don't want it to be too miserable, folks. We want to have some kind of laughs, some good times, memories. So we're gonna cherry pick a couple of these quotes just so we can say, like, fuck you, Gary Bettman. This is why you get booed.
Tell me about it.
Someone had asked Gary, basically, does the NHL have actual sexual assault policies or put protocols in place? And he basically said no.
Nope, they're the only major professional league that does not have them. The NFL, NBA, MLB, and I believe the MLS as well all have it.
Yeah, and he said no. He said no, but quite confidently, and said we evaluate each case we evaluate what happens on a case-to-case basis. And this quote came maybe like an hour, like maybe 40 minutes after stating that from Bettman, him saying the organization has made significant improvements in the 10 years since the Kyle Beach situation happened, which is such bullshit.
Yeah.
Frankly, you can't honestly say that quote and then later on in your same press thing be like, yeah, we don't have protocols that would protect players or employees of the NHL when it comes to sexual misconduct.
I think that's an acceptable answer.
And he's a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he should know that. Like, he should know that that's not a good enough.
Yeah, it's pathetic. Then there was the question about why did Joel Quenneville coach on Wednesday? This, of course, came right immediately after the Kyle Beach interview aired on TSN. And Gary Bettman, another brilliant quote, said he didn't want to appear as though he had prejudged Joel Quenneville, which might be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like,
yep, it's
fuck you, man.
This is a guy. It's very much a case of, like, I think the best way to put it is, like, the NHL has, I think the very easy way to sum all this up is that the NHL has learned jack squat. They have learned absolutely nothing. They never will.
It is the Principal Seymour Skinner meme. Am I so out of touch? No. It's the public that is wrong.
Yeah, there's no kids at the 4-H club either. Yeah,
Am I out of touch?
That's exactly what that's exactly how to describe it.
We can get into like some of the other quotes, but like I don't even know if we want to. Basically, like if you check out like Rick Westhead's tweet thread about it, like he pretty much summarized all the quotes. Mike Stevens as well. I don't know his @ right off my top of my head, but he was summarizing some of the quotes and offering some very scathing critiques of the NHL. Oh yeah, at Mikey Stevens 81. Check out his commentary and piece on the Hockey News about the press conference, because it's great. It's just like a scathing critique of how poorly this press conference went. It rocks. But yeah, just another dark day for fans of the NHL who want to see it improve and be bettered, and unfortunately being told by the white men in power that nope, we think we think we're handling this perfectly okay, when it is so very clearly not being handled very okay.
We always say in these sorts of, like, when it comes to this sort of stuff, when people remind us about this stuff, right? Like, in less serious cases, they're always in, like, well, I shouldn't say less serious, but like less urgent, I think is the better way of putting it. In less urgent cases, when something comes up like, hey, they don't have this, by the way, they should probably have that. Like, they should probably get on that kind of thing. Because this has come up before. It, like, even in cases where, like, there was nothing like impending about that sort of like a situation like this, where it would be brought up and it's like, oh, the NHL will be like, no, it's just fine. No, yeah, this is why you need it. And like, but we always said at those times, like, but if this actually comes up, they'll do their job to protect them, right?
Right.
And
Not
here
anymore.
they had the opportunity. Nope, no, they didn't.
No.
They did not protect anybody except their buddy, except the
Themselves.
200
Their
hockey
image.
men. Yeah, they protected the 200 hockey men, and well, I guess they're down to 199 now, as much as
Rip.
they wouldn't. Yeah, as much as they don't want it to.
Yeah.
And then you go into like the whole thing of like, look, the fact of the matter is, like, the media was there to ask questions and like full transparency. Like they're talking about, oh, we preach full transparency now, like, or like at least right going forward, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took Rick Westhead, the guy who broke the entire
The
story.
only reason this story is popular
is
or
popular
in the know
until nearly the complete end of media availability. Meanwhile, Darren Dreger got 2 shots at asking a question from the same outlet. And it's like, why? It's like, okay, we know why. I should be very clear here. We know exactly why he got 2 questions in, and Rick Westhead didn't. In a way, it doesn't actually have that much to do with Darren Dreger at the end of the day, as much as it does the NHL being completely, like, obviously, like, pissy and like petty to the guy who's doing his damn job and doing his job to look at, to like, as an investigative reporter, to make sure that the truth is found out and that he's doing his job to make sure to protect the safety of people. Like, and somebody put it very well of like, if you're actually like going for transparency, you would be calling on Rick Westhead first. You would go to him immediately. And
he would be
like,
the only person asking questions for like the first half an hour, if anything.
Every question that he wants answered, you would have, and you would let him go for.
Yeah.
And then and maybe like you throw in Katie Strang in there as well too, because she did also a lot of work on this. And then after that, whatever time you have left, you go for the other people, right? That would be transparency. And I do appreciate like some of the reporters like being like, hey, like I think it was Pierre LeBrun who was like, hey,
don't forget to ask my teammate or my coworker.
Don't forget to ask a question to Rick Westhead. Like, seriously, the fact that he had to do that at all was really sad. It was really like embarrassing for the NHL.
Also, when they kept going back to Darren Dreger, but his microphone didn't even work, but they just like kept actively trying to go back to him because they know he'd softball them a question. Like, how like, speaking of transparency, how can you tell the world that like some guy at TSN is like your lapdog?
Oh, yeah.
So
like,
bad.
Literally from the same outlet and everything.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's like, oh god, like you literally kept trying not to answer questions from the actual person who wanted real answers here.
I also loved
I
loved Elliot Friedman going on his like pedestal, being like, yeah, I need to be better. And then all throughout today, as he's covering this press conference, he makes one remark saying that what they're doing isn't good enough. And that's it. He offers zero commentary. He retweets all the quotes where he's basically, groveling at their feet, being like, oh yeah, they did their due diligence. And, like he's basically just like doing everything he was doing.
He's just sharing the quotes, is he not? Like, I don't think he's presenting without context.
If you looked at all the media that were actually tweeting out the quotes, the ones that were actually horrible, like the whole "we don't have a policy in place," we knew about this in December and didn't do anything about it. Like, it's very convenient that some of those quotes didn't get tweeted by the guy who just said he didn't do good enough back in May. It's just a little funny, little ironic. Like, not even 72 hours after his 6-minute apology on 32 Thoughts, that he's just back to doing the same shit. And I'm gonna guess why. It's because Kevin Cheveldayoff didn't get fired. Somehow he was absolved of his sin of his criminal activities by being a part of that meeting that turned a blind eye to Kyle Beach's sexual assault. Somehow, Gary Bettman sussed out his character and knew that what he did was okay, and he did the best he could, because being an AGM in the NHL is apparently not a senior position of leadership, which is the biggest crock of shit I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, it is. Sure is.
Yeah. Anyway, I won't get into it. I could rant forever on
We sure could.
on Patrick, or not Patrick Johnson. Elliot
Patrick Johnson
Friedman's.
did great. How dare you?
Patrick Johnson's summary of the situation was great. Elliot Friedman's was pathetic. But anyway, I don't have enough time in the world to go over my dislike of Elliot Friedman's handling of serious issues like this, so we're not going to talk about it. What else is there that might actually be feel-good news? Is there anything?
There's defensemen getting paid. Morgan Rielly was supposed to come to Vancouver. Why didn't he?
Son of a bitch.
He's gonna get his 8 years. I will like his 8-year, $60 million extension from the Leafs. $7.5 million average annual value for that on that cap for his cap hit. Which is pretty cheap for what he actually brings to the Leafs. Like, he's clearly their number one defenseman, so it's kind of cheap. I would say that's actually kind of a discount, which is it is. Actually, it is. It's a hometown discount that was talked about. And somebody had this really, really great tweet that I felt bad for laughing at, but it was literally somebody tweeted. I forget who it was, but basically the gist of the tweet was Morgan Rielly is the rare NHLer who does not care about money or winning, and you have to respect him for that.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was great.
And I'm like, oh, that's so mean, but also, I'm not really seeing any lies detected here. I mean, and then somebody else put it really well, that it's like, look, when your girlfriend is Tessa Virtue, like Canadian royalty, you're gonna take that hometown discount to stay. You're very much the reacher in that relationship. I saw a couple people tweeting about that. It's like, yeah, I'd take a discount too. I think it was Sam, actually. I think it was Samantha from the broadcast who tweeted out like that. It was like something along the lines of like, yeah, good for Tessa Virtue's boyfriend. Something like that.
That does right.
And then Adam Fox gets a 7-year deal from the Rangers, 66.5 million extension. Yeah, 9.5 AAV, which is, again,
and he signed it in Vancouver.
No.
Yeah, he signed it here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because he's actually in town. Yeah,
he's in Vancouver, and he's signed it while physically being in Vancouver.
He physically signed his contract in Vancouver, but he did not sign it with Vancouver.
Or wait, did he sign it before the game against the Kraken yesterday?
He signed it.
No, you're right. This morning. It was this morning. You're right.
He probably signed it on the ice. He's just that good.
That would be actually really funny if they had just wheeled out a table at Climate Pledge Arena for him to like sign his contract. They actually, you know what? I think when Wayne Gretzky signed his big contract with the Oilers, because remember, because not only did he sign in an era where there was no salary cap and no like max deals or whatever, he also signed in like an era where I think technically his big contract with the Oilers wasn't even a hockey contract. It was a personal services contract. So it was basically like a lifetime contract. It was like 21 years or something insanity like that. I think there are pictures of him in his equipment, literally signing it before a game. Like, it's something like that. I think you can find that somewhere. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, that's that would have been pretty funny if they'd done that with Adam Fox. I guess the one last thing we can touch on before we go here, it was Halloween yesterday.
It was.
First of all, I forget if we talked about this fully on the show last time you did the show, but Claire Stewart, girlfriend of Lawson Krause, you're right. We did talk about it a little bit. I believe they went for a Mean Girls motif this year.
They did.
How did they do?
It was a bit disappointing. It's a little it's a little
Are
outdated.
you sure you're not are you being
the butter pig
the dog
costume is like A+, like the shades and like the sweater, like I didn't realize like a dog could look like an actual person until I saw that. And A+. I'll be sure to critique her on Twitter though, just to keep up the bit,
Yeah.
and just be like a little outdated, not your best effort. Could have been better. But yeah,
Could have
other than that,
could have been better.
could have been okay, better. Mean Girls happened
It
close
is
to
a bit of
19 years ago.
no, there was the musical. The musical did happen a little more
Sure.
recently. The
Did you
Mean
notice
Girls.
all? Did you notice all the player like pictures that were coming out, and they were like all in the Cruella Deville stuff? Like a
Yeah,
lot of
a lot
teams
of
had
them did.
Cruella stuff.
I forgot that movie came out this year. That
Same,
the
same.
Cruella biopic, is that what we're calling it? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Like with
yeah.
Emma Stone came out.
Yes.
That was I was gonna say, if we're gonna talk about a Halloween costume today, it's Tyler Myers, right?
Oh yeah, he won. He won Halloween for sure. Actually, no. You know who won Halloween is? Did you see that like guy who posted a picture of like his kid, and he's like, my kid wanted to be pants for Halloween, and it's just a kid with like oversized pants up to his shoulders and like armholes cut out of it. Yeah, he
That's
just wanted to be
incredible.
pants. Yeah, it's
Uh,
I loved it. That's adorable.
Somebody, Arta Cal, is it Ocal or I think it's Ocal. I think he's just got a jack-o'-lantern as the O right now on his name from
Okay.
ESPN. He tweeted a picture of former Canuck Gustav Forsling, who went dressed up as an IKEA table that is also called Gustav. So he's literally wearing the blue IKEA bags, like those reusable, like he's wearing it as
Yeah.
suspenders, and then he just has like literally the
logo.
instruction booklet for the Gustav taped to
Attaboy.
his yellow t-shirt. And
That rocks.
and the cream of the crop, he's wearing one of those IKEA reused bags bucket hats that they sell. Like they sell bucket hats that are made out of the same thing as the bags, and it's
Amazing.
really funny. Yeah, Tyler Myers went as Cruella, which honestly rocked. Like that
Yeah,
rocked really
that was
hard.
really
Like,
good.
and I guess because there was the picture, I believe it was JT Miller's wife Natalie who posted the picture of her and Tyler Myers both as Cruella, both
Yeah.
dressed as Cruella, and JT Miller as a Dalmatian. As a
On his
Dalmatian,
shoulders in one of the pictures, which is really funny too.
yeah, and then I think
Because
Tyler Myers' wife, I forget, I'm blanking on her name. I'm sorry about that, but she also was a Dalmatian.
Yeah.
So they kind of like did like a
it's like a couple's costume that I don't know if it was planned or not, but it's
that would
pretty
be
great.
so funny if they didn't plan it. Like if
Yeah.
it wasn't planned and they showed up that way, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And then there was one other good costume that I think was out there. I think Clarissa had a lot of like pictures of like the really good costumes, I think. Out there were some good ones. I think Thatcher Demko and his fiance Lexi, they went as Willy Wonka and an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah.
I would just like to say though, like okay, there was one thing that really bothered me about this year in the Halloween costumes is there were way too, like, this is not a hockey thing necessarily. This is just an everybody thing. Do you know, Cody, how many different people I saw doing Ted Lasso costumes?
I know.
Like, I'm sorry, like, I get the show is really good. I totally get that, but you have to know
You
that
had to
like
know every single person was going to
everybody
grow a mustache and do
was
Ted Lasso with like the shades. Like,
yeah, because
come on,
again,
people.
and let's not kid
And it's
ourselves. It's
so
an
easy. You
easy
just have to go in your
costume.
wardrobe.
It's literally just track pants, track shirt, and like a visor cap. Like that's not. Come on, like guys, no,
Yeah.
no. I expect more from you. Like at
It's a
least
D-
with like
effort.
at least if like with all the other people who did like Squid Game costumes, at least there was some it took some effort to put those together. Like there was too many of those as well, but at least there was some real effort being put into those. There was no effort in those Ted Lasso costumes. I'm sorry, and I'm saying that as a guy who did not dress up.
Yeah, I didn't dress up either, but like still, Ted Lasso is like the laziest of lazy.
Like, yeah, I get that it's the in show. I'm sure it's very good. Like, I haven't gotten around to watching it. I'm sure it's really good. And I'm sure I'd be just as into it as everybody if I got around to watching it. But like, no, it's as a Halloween costume specifically, it's real lazy, and I'm not here for it.
Yeah, I agree. Anyways, folks, if you enjoyed this episode, we talk Halloween costumes for 14 hours on our next one. Maybe we'll go over every single player in the NHL, and we will rate them on a scale. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. It's a waste of time. I have been Cody Sievertson. You can find my stuff at Cody Sievertson on Twitter and my website, ahlnucksharvest.com. I won't be on the Friday episode, but I will be back next week where we will be talking about maybe a Canucks win, maybe some
God,
piece of
I
shit
hope
executive
so.
getting fired. Who knows? Maybe some actual good news for a change. Lachlan, where can the fine folks find your work?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lach and the Crease, and you can find my writing work at CanucksArmy.com. I'm going to be posting this is the start. Obviously, today is November 1st, so I'll be this is the start of essentially the new schedule for me, where I'm going to be writing a whole lot for Canucks Army. So definitely go check that out over the course of the rest of the season. And check out our Patreon as well for $5 a month. We're gonna be doing some bonus shows. We're gonna be doing some other stuff. We're gonna find some ways to fill in the gaps here.
Yeah. As always, folks, you can find our stuff on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, all your favorite podcast channels. Don't forget to check out our YouTube, where you can see us in glorious HD quality video with our graphics and all that. Rate, like, and subscribe. Drop us some reviews. We appreciate those. And otherwise, folks, I guess we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye?
Bye?
Question mark?
Huh?
We just live about right before 150.
Yeah. See ya?
See, goodbye? Like, yeah.